Now on this video, I'm going to try to show how I restore motorcycle seats. We're going to use an FZR in 1991 as an example. I'm going to show what material to use, what staples to use. And these are things I've learned over many years of recovering seats for myself, for my motorcycle collection, and for other people. We're going to start with a seat that's well worn and well faded. You can see how faded it is in this picture. It's time to be renewed. There's a lot of wrinkles in it over time. It's probably 10, 15 years old. We buy the material at Jo-Ann Fabrics. The material is about $20 a yard. We use heavy duty staples, and I'm going to try to cover all of this in the video. And hopefully at the end of it, when it's done, we're going to have a seat that's better than a brand new seat in every way possible. And it's not something that's out of the realm of the average person. I don't think any of this is comparable to some of the other projects we do in the shop, putting new carburetors on bikes, custom painting wheels. These are all things that are on my channel with over 2,000 videos. Custom paint work can get very involved, but recovering and restoring a seat is something, I think it's a good starter project anyway. And you're going to be out about $20 to $30 for material. And there are a couple of little pitfalls you can fall into using the wrong products, the wrong staples, or in some cases it's just common sense how to do this, or in one case buying the wrong vinyl. Vinyl comes stretchable and non-stretchable, and if you're in doubt, get the one you can stretch. It'll be a whole lot easier. And again, we get it from Jo-Ann Fabric. You can get it off the internet. First step though, for any project like this, we got to pull out the old staples, take off the old cover, and these staples that we used previously, they were not long enough. They were 1/4 inch. We want to use longer staples, and most of all heavy duty staples on this project. And I use an ordinary arrow stapler and heavy duty. See the word heavy duty? A good place to start is heavy duty 3/8 staples. Now I like to use a small set of wire nippers and take the staples out one by one, being careful you don't get any stuck in your finger. They come right out on most motorcycles that I've done, and the objective is, if you take them out one at a time and be very careful, the seat cover at some point should come right off. I always like to do like a little forensic thing, look around and see what we can make better here. Now you can see this must be, and I'm just guessing, I don't really remember, this must be the original seat. Look at how it's ripped. Well, we don't want that to happen again. It might be a sharp spot in there. Maybe this, no, not really. And before I'm done, I want to clean all this road grime off. I want to take the hardware off and just get the rust off it, grease it. That's a simple job. I always put a little bit of grease on these tangs. I get rid of the rough spots so that putting the seat on and off is a little bit easier. And basically now, and I see I reinforced this. So not much forensic here. It's going to be another shot of it. This gets pretty redundant after a while, pulling these staples out. But now these went in, and these are the long ones too. They're long, but they're not heavy duty. So that's telling me that in fact, I want to show this. Because there's just sometimes you can pull them out by hand, and that's not good. Time to get this other cover off and look at the forensics involved in this now, and this makes it easy. I can see what went wrong and what went right. One more staple. Every time I deconstruct something like this, I always like to see, I try to get a little idea of what went on. Okay, this material apparently held up a little bit better, but it's not, it ripped. That was one problem. And we had a problem up here. So again, another landfill piece. Pretty soon you won't need to worry about landfill in New Jersey. But here's what's always the issue on these seats that have this contour up here. Very difficult to get this to flow nice. So that's why we're going to do I'm going to get the thicker batting when I go to Jo-Ann Fabric and try to make this really contour a lot nicer. And I think that's going to be a no-brainer. I also want to take a piece of sandpaper And before I go any further, because this is one of the critical things, this is where it's going to be a problem, right here. And even on Mark's seat, we sanded the whole thing nice and radius, get the foam to kind of blend in. But getting this radius is really, really important, because if this is a razor edge and you stretch that vinyl, and eventually that's going to be a problem, a potential problem. All these radiused off. Of course, the foam at this point in time, this is loose here. I'm going to put a little bit of contact cement in there. Try to keep that from moving around. I want to radius all these edges off before I go any further. In anything, if I take my hand, and I don't want to do this without looking to see, oh, see, here's what I'm just trying to say. There's a staple sticking up right there. And if I don't get that out right now, that winds up in your shoe or in your nose or something. There's always something. And it's funny, after all the seat covers, this thing has probably had 3 or 4 other seat covers on it. It looks like it's been machine gunned, but we have learned a lot in the course of working with this seat. And when we're done with this rebuild, we're going to clean it all up, like I said. It's going to be better than new. It'll absolutely be better than if you bought a new one off eBay or from Yamaha. Now, I try to, on each time I do a project, and I do it again, and the next time I always try to do some experimenting. Well, some experimenting. I don't want to do it on one of the A-team members' seats. You know, they could take the check and just cancel it, and I'll be embarrassed at the bank. But on my own seat, I can experiment and do whatever I want. So what I thought was, here's the thing I'm trying to avoid. What would always happen up here if you would put the duct tape? It kind of just didn't exactly look like what I had in mind. So what I thought I'd do, because this is my seat, I got a hot glue gun. And what I'm going to try to do is attach this in such a way that this foam doesn't wander around. Then I can grind it down and get the shape a little nicer. See, as long as the foam is moving around, you can't really do that. When the foam is like this, you can't you're stuck. But if I can glue this down, and by the way, the hot glue, there's 2 of these. One is hot and one is like extra hot. I use the one that's extra hot, but I don't even think you have to for a project like this. And definitely wear gloves. Ow! When that stuff is hot, that is really hot, hot, hot. Yeah, I think this is going to work. We'll find out. And since it's my seat, if it doesn't work, I can always just somehow improvise. And as I've said before, each one of the seats that we've worked on, actually many of the projects we've worked on, each one just gets a little bit nicer, a little bit better, a little bit nicer. And the fact that we can share some or most of it with our friends. Oh, that shit is hot. Wow. On YouTube. It's hot, baby. Trust me. Don't burn you. Don't do this without gloves. Wow, you'll be sorry. That seems like this stuff just comes off, by the way. So we're going to absolutely just let that cure. And I think that's going to be, now what I can do, of course, at the end, I can blend that in with a sanding block a little bit nicer than if in the past I have just taken duct tape or something and put it up there. And this stuff just comes right off, doesn't stick to rubber, at least not to the rubber gloves anyway. Now I did the whole perimeter of this, and what I wanted to do, see, because this usually is the part that I want to just dress the foam off. I know the batting is going to make this a lot better. Having his edges radiused is going to make it better. Everything is one step, one step, one step. But the final result, I hope, is going to be that we get this to really draw out really nice with no wrinkles and have that really nice curve. And that's Mark's seat came out beautiful. So I have with the good fabric from Joanne Fabrics, I hope this is going to be nice too. Now, next thing you can see how rusty and corroded. Remember, these are 28, 30-year-old parts, whatever the hell they are. So it'll be to our advantage. Pull all this hardware off. In a minimum, wire brush it down and put a coat of WD-40 on it or something. Now, we don't use the seat latch the way they normally would. I don't have a key that goes into the seat. There's a hole in the seat over here. We don't use that because we basically were using this for a track bike when we first bought it. But I'll get that all off and get that polished up next. And it's all these little steps that, and at least whenever I restore anything, I like to do all the little steps, because once you have this apart, it's a piece of cake to do all this extra. I'll even polish up the nuts on a buffing wheel. But clean this all up with some M600 or whatever it's going to take to clean that. But I would hate to put this back and it's all rusty. And I know some people do, but I try not to. Now, I don't know why anybody would do this kind of work and not get rid of all the corrosion and rust, but again, some people do. Now, I have a golden rule. Anytime I have anything physically off the motorcycle or I've taken it apart, I like to clean the rust, clean the corrosion. I have a buffing wheel in the shop. I like to polish it, get on a good coat of wax, and you can see the difference before and after. I think that's one of the steps that's really, to me, it's important. Now, I know a lot of people that, like, even when you change a tire, you have the back wheel off the bike or something else, they don't clean the part before they put it back on. I think that's important. Hey, maybe you do too. Now, some ordinary M600, any degreasing agent, simple green. I don't remember which worked the best, but you can try them all. I want to have this part clean when it goes back on the motorcycle. This is the material from Joann Fabric, and it's got, I'm going to put the name up here because we're, of course, trying to share information. This is the same material that we did Mark's seat. Spradling, and it's from Joann Fabric. I'll put that up on a close-up. This is the material we used in the past, and I just wanted to compare it. But this material was reasonably good, and it was stretchy, but this stuff is just beautiful. This stretch is just so nice. And we did Mark's seat. We didn't even have to use any heat, so let me get the name of this up on the camera, and then we're going to start covering the seat. Again, you can identify this also. There's the other logo that's on there. And I'm sure this is available online. But this is really nice material. Just noticed, as I'm unrolling this, because this is wide material, it looks like I can get about 4 seats out of this. The key number here is PT542178. If you happen to want to unload. Order it online, unload it online. Anyway, that is one of the things we found that really makes this a practical thing. Now, because the material is sold, it's obviously sold by the yard, but it's wider. If you look close, it looks like, and normally we can only get 2 seats out of a yard. Not that it would really matter. This stuff's only $19 a yard, but I want to have plenty of extra material on here. There's no sense trying to be too cute about it. So the first thing is just to cut a piece that's oversized. Now, it's always good if this is the first or one of the early seats in your career of doing this. I know in the beginning I used to trim the material way too small, and I'd be pulling it. In the beginning, you got to leave a little bit of flop. The flop just makes it easier to get it tacked in place. Now, in the past, too, I've had 1/4-inch staples work on the Ducati seats, which seem to be a softer material. This material and the stuff Mark had for the Honda, we wound up using 3/8. But the key here is to always buy and always use heavy duties. Heavy duty is, if it's not heavy duty, you're going to be, half of them are going to pull out. And because this is a critical thing, if you look at the staples, you can get by using the no heavy duty staples, but in time they seem to get weak and pull out. So the whole key here, again, no matter what brand you use, the heavy duty ones, it doesn't seem to matter as long as they're heavy duty. Okay, this is Mountain Mist batting from Joann Fabric. Now what the batting does, and we've done seats for years without batting. We used to use thin foam, but the batting seems to work just a little bit better. Now it comes in several thicknesses, 1/4 inch, 3/8. This is the thinnest that they have. I believe they list it thin. What the hell do they list it at anyway? Medium, crib size, medium. Anyway, a layer of this seems to smooth everything out really nice. This is the 1/4 inch, but they do make 3/8 and half, and I think they make it even thinner than that. We're going to put one layer of that down with contact cement. Now this is ordinary spray adhesive, and they do make some especially for upholstery, but this stuff has been fine in the past. And the good news, we already have it. Now Luciano did buy some of the upholstery stuff and it worked fine. He's got another Ducati seat to do, so we're going to looks like we're in the seat business here this winter. But the whole idea of this is to share all the information, share the sources, and share the information like those heavy-duty staples that make it either practical or easy for, really, I think this is a job almost anybody, entry-level even people can do. If they have an old motorcycle, or you want to make a custom seat, or you want to add some padding if you're looking for some more comfort. Alright, that takes about 2 minutes to tack up. Then what we're going to do is drop on a layer of that batting and just get out all the wrinkles with our bare hands. Now because we don't have the piece, you don't have to have this cut to some exact size. You just want to basically drape it over. I want to start at the middle. Make like a center line, wrap it around. The contact cement just very gradually, as it's setting, it gets stickier and stickier. You can get out some or all of the wrinkles. If you wait too long, the glue gets to where you can't get it to hold down. And you don't want to do it immediately, instantly. You want to have that like about a 2 minute, I call it a 2 minute time window for me. Now we're only going to see this part of the seat, so lucky for us we don't care if anything, but this is the easy part. So the only part of this we're going to see is the hard part, of course. Now the next step on this is to take the batting and trim it with ordinary scissors, ordinary cloth scissors, I guess is the right word. Now I'm going to try to leave like about a 1/4 inch so I can wrap this around as a way of softening that edge, because I've already taken that edge and sanded it smooth. Because, hey, now let me show this. When you're looking to really do a really nice job, if this rolls over, and there's still some contact cement on there to hold it, so that's nice. That'll hold it in place. And what that hopefully will do is just give that edge a nice radiused edge. Okay, with that on, and we've left about a 1/4 inch just around. You can see how much it is in the back. You don't even see it. It's wrapped around the edge. I don't know, especially in the front, if that's going to make for a nicer joint or not. That's yet to be proven. Okay, we got to get the material and start stretching it on. Okay, now with the material oversized in every dimension, and if we're lucky we won't have to use much heat or any heat. I need enough that I can stretch this later on. These are all temporary staples. They hold it back like that. Now I need to pull this up, just temporarily. As I said, the back of this you don't even see, so. And of course I need to get the whole edge so it's all wrapped around to start with. Now the way I've always done this is I start at the back. This is just tacked on. I start at the back now and try to bend this around. Try to get as much of this as I can. Pull tight. A little difficult when you only have one person. Not impossible, but just difficult to get. A lot of times it's difficult. You can't get the nose of the gun in there. Now, as you get to where you've got the material tacked in place, it's a good idea to get rid of, I did this off camera, you get rid of all of the extra, and then try to, wherever you have what I call a wrinkle, it's probably a better word if you're an upholstery guy, you put a little bit of get it right in the middle. Now you have two wrinkles. Now you take each wrinkle. Sometimes you need heat to do this. This material is so nice. I don't think you even need... And you just keep working your way around. You see you have one here. And these are all temporary staples. They're all coming out at the very end. This is just to hold it in position. Let the material relax. Here's a wrinkle here. So now what happens, you can see, little by little, you work that edge. Okay, we've got it done and stretched, and all the staples are in. The back part, of course, is now done. Now I have to do the same thing up here, working from the back to the front. It's going to take several stretches to get that to lay down flat. And if it doesn't, I have to use some heat. You can see as I'm pulling this down here, I see the wrinkles developing. The wrinkles are telling me I have to pull this in this dimension. Whatever the wrinkle is, I have to pull in the opposite dimension. So I'm going to loosen up some of the old staple. These are just temporary staples. And stretch this forward. Stretch it in every dimension, but wherever there's a wrinkle, the opposite dimension. Now you can see the wrinkle is now in this angle. It means we're going to have to loosen these staples up and pull it in this dimension. Wrinkle is changed. It's in this dimension, so it means we got to pull it straight down that way. And that's why you have temporary staples. Take them in, keep stretching. At the very end, this looks like we may need some heat because this is quite a bend up here. Okay, now as we're working our way up on this, you can see we got a wrinkle here and a wrinkle here. So we just trace back, loosen these staples, pull that back. And it's time to start using some heat on this because this is the last little bit. This bend is what makes this a very difficult seat to do. Way more difficult than the last couple we've done, but it's just a question of we heat the vinyl, stretch it in a dimension opposite the wrinkle, take out the old staples, stretch it, put some new staples in. Now we're getting down to nitty gritty where now we just have a little bit of a wrinkle here. Well, what we're going to have to do, we're just going to use a little bit of heat up there. And these last little wrinkles, usually here's the trick, is I heat the whole seat cover at this time and go have a cup of coffee because it lets the vinyl just relax. An even better thing if you live in if it ever was a sunny day here, just put it out in the sun on the dashboard of your car and it'll just conform in a matter of about an hour. Or if you're where we are, put it up by a heating vent or heat it with a hairdryer. The heat just allows the vinyl to relax. That really conformed nice. You're only a cup of coffee away once you put that out on a hot dashboard of a car. But the bottom, I put the final row of staples in. Now, another thing, I always put way more staples than you need, especially up in the front. You always want to make sure you don't have any staples sticking out up in the front that are going to rub on the gas tank and scratch it. And the only thing left is to put the hardware on. Now, we got to put the hardware on and then go assemble it. And if we ever get some riding weather, get a ride. Normally this bike would have a hole in the seat right here with some kind of little linkage and to get the seat off. We don't use that. I have a little bit different way because I have the sport bike tail section on. Covers up that piece anyway, so you really can't use it. Hey, it looks like it's... Now at the end, I always think the biggest tips are use the correct staples. That saves you a lot of grief. Pulling out the wrinkles, be patient, keep moving the vinyl, and the biggest tip of all on this video, the biggest thing, where the wrinkle is, pull it in the opposite direction. It kind of makes sense when you do that. And once you get it put back on the bike, and in this case, this bike is our track bike currently, and I just love having a nice new seat. That seat cost me about $25 in material. And I don't know what other thing you could do to a bike for $25 to make a nice improvement like that. And because we've radiused all the edges, taken care of all the sharp edges, that should be a long time before we see any wear and tear on that seat at all. And it's a job you can do in about 2 or 3 hours if you have a helper. A helper is a big help. But again, Jo-Ann Fabric or buying a material off the internet. The other big tip, buy stretchable vinyl. Stretchable vinyl is critical. So if you're new to our channel, I have a small collection. I call it my humble bike collection. All of the bikes in it I've restored or I've had since new, and I try to share the information, actually share the passion for motorcycling on my channel. It's the whole purpose of it. And share things you can do that are very inexpensive and take a little bit of skill, maybe a little bit of elbow grease or some passion. But most of the stuff is stuff you can do yourself. Stuff you don't need a machine shop for or a wallet with deep pockets. We try to keep this simple, and things that we do on the channel, mostly things that you can do yourself as starter projects. Thanks so much for watching.